Hello, and welcome back to the Reactivist Podcast. I'm Marlena Shivo. Joe Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, and it is all the talk today. This message came from the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself, over the weekend, and people on both sides are highly critical of the president's decision. And one of the criticisms of Joe Biden that came from Fox News is Joe Biden is protecting himself.
I think what is just impossible for Democrats to defend is that this is not just about a father looking after his son and wanting him not to go to jail when this sentencing was supposed to happen in a couple of weeks. This is Joe Biden going back 11 years to ensure that he himself is not ensnared in any investigation into his family's influence peddling around the world, earning millions of dollars when he was vice president. This is Joe Biden protecting himself.
Maybe, but I argue, if I were Joe Biden and I had the power to protect my child and then, of course, myself, who wouldn't do that? Look, he could live like Jimmy Carter. He could keep going. And with that in mind, I definitely would want to protect myself. I wouldn't want to be entangled in the stress of legal difficulties. The man barely wanted to be entangled in the difficulties of his job as president. Now that he's in the final hours of his term and is riding off into the sunset of his retirement years, I'm sure the man would enjoy a little bit of peace. I personally don't really understand why people are so incensed by this. I do and I don't. Okay, I do and I don't. I understand that he said over and over again that he wasn't going to pardon his son. And he was adamant that he did not want to interfere with the judicial system. And he was going to let the process play out the way it was going to play out. And it played out.
He's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar.
Joe Biden repeatedly said he wouldn't do this. So he repeatedly lied.
Of course he lied. I would lie. If I were the president and I was leaving office and that were my child, I would 3,000% have pardoned my child. There have been critics citing many reasons why this doesn't do well for the Dems and it empowers Donald Trump.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it, and that's that our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again.
They're talking about executive power and the power of pardon, and it has to be revisited.
I mean, should Congress have the ability to block pardons? I mean, what possible reforms could come into play here to stop future presidents from doing this? As you know, presidents have pardoned relatives before.
I think we're probably going to have to amend the Constitution because the pardon power is so sweeping. We're going to have to, kind of enumerate its limits if there are going to be limits. I believe there should be. I don't believe the pardon power should be as broad as it is, and we can clearly see how it can be used and abused, even with, righteous cause.
How about from the human standpoint? Forget the politics. How about the human standpoint? I say all bets are off when it's your kid. Sorry, not sorry at all. I would do this in a heartbeat. I think men and women are just so different. I know it's such a rare opinion to say, but we just cut away all the fat and get right down to it. And we speak from the heart and we live from the heart.
This is a father who saw his first wife killed, his daughter killed in a car crash, his 2 young sons survive. One goes on to have real difficulties with addiction. Another dies because of cancer. This is a family that's really troubled. I mean, yes, he said he wasn't going to do this, but did anyone ever believe that that was the case? I mean, I would have put good money on this happening. Like, are many people going to be surprised that a father who is also the president would do this for a son?
And there you have it. From a woman. Your child supersedes everything, period. I don't care about politics. I'm sure I'm oversimplifying this for some people. I'm sure there are people are saying, yeah, it's not just about him being a dad. Okay. Well, for me it is. I actually would have been way more critical of Biden if he hadn't done this. They do so many polls in politics. The election, approval ratings. I would love to see a poll of parents and see how many people say that they would have done something differently. I can only guess that it would be very heavily weighted on the side of many people doing exactly what Joe Biden did. Parenthood changes everything. And that said, I was on Instagram just this morning and came across this video.
There is a 10-year window when you are your child's most important person in the entire world.
Lauren's going to start crying.
And after that 10 years, they have other most important people. They have best friends, they have girlfriends, boyfriends, they have partners, spouses, and you will never get that 10-year period back. And yet it also happens to be the time when we as adults are supposed to be hustling as hard as we possibly can to achieve all of these goals in our life. When we're traveling the most, we're working the most, we're going crazy for whatever our ambitions are. And it's such a shame because so many people miss those moments with their kids that they are never going to get back. And so my whole call to action is it's a time to think about that, to realize how precious that 10-year period is. It doesn't mean giving up those ambitions, giving up all of your goals, your personal dreams, but it does mean realizing that there's a trade-off, realizing there's a balance, and something that you need to think about on a daily basis.
And that sort of sums it up. Can't reverse time, but if you're president, you can reverse your child's prison sentence. And if using my get out of jail free card is within my reach as a parent, I'm using it over and over again. And in other news...
What do you mean when you say far left?
I mean, I could give you a million examples.
Yeah, well, give me one.
Jane Fonda joined Bill Maher on his podcast Club Random.
The far left has gone so nutty on so many issues.
That's what they're being told.
That's what they...
By people like you.
Because it's true. You think the far left does nothing crazy?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh, well then...
But I don't know. Who is the far left? What do you mean when you say far left?
I mean, I could give you a million examples.
Yeah, well, give me one.
Who is the far left, says Jane Fonda.
They just suggest something to the average person, which I completely understand, which is, wow, do you people ever find anything that's ridiculous? You really think men can get pregnant? You know, that kind of stuff. And I understand that a trans woman can get pregnant. That's different than a man getting pregnant. And the way they sort of insist on blurring that line is if that's some sort of reasonable social cause.
I have to correct Bill Maher. I'm shocked that I have to correct him. I feel like he's never wrong, which was actually the name of one of his stand-up specials, But I'm Not Wrong. But here, Bill, you are wrong. It's not that transgender women can have kids, because a transgender woman would be a man or a biological male who is now living their life as a woman. So it would be a transgender male who is a biological woman who is now who identifies as a man, and that would be the person that could have babies. So on a technicality, this is how the far left, or people who believe that, quote, men can have babies, because if you identify as a man but you're biologically equipped as a woman, as a female, okay.
As opposed to just being for having full rights, respect, and protection for trans people. We get that.
So I've never heard about men getting pregnant. I've never heard about this argument. It must be some part of what you call the far left that is so minuscule that I, who am...
No, Jane,
What?
It's not minuscule, and I'm sorry, you can't throw this back on us. I assume it's because you are locked into media that just never wants anyone in their audience to know anything sketchy about the blue team.
Well...
And that's...
I mean, I don't know. I read 2 papers, and maybe I don't.
Two newspapers. I wish she would have listed what those newspapers were. It's kind of shocking that she's not more plugged into the politics that she supports. The fact that she doesn't realize, or at least in this conversation realize, that the far left was highly influential with the Democratic Party, and that's why the Democratic Party has had issues this round and obviously lost this election due to the far left ideologies that were impossible to avoid during the election. However, even more shocking than Jane Fonda not realizing that the far left is no longer considered fringe, or is considered fringe, the smaller portion of the political sides, but they are the ones dominating the media. So she should probably get herself some other news publications other than the 2 undisclosed newspapers that she is reading, or not. She's Jane Fonda. She can do whatever she wants. But back to what I was saying that was more shocking is that Bill Maher actually uttered the words that he may quit, which is crazy. I mean, he's also very, very stoned during his podcast, so maybe he was just sort of too deep in his head at the moment, but he was talking about how he's already lived through a Trump administration and that it dominates the media, and I guess he's just a little exhausted by all of it. But that would be a tragedy, in my opinion. That exchange between Jane Fonda and Bill Maher went on for probably over an hour, and much of it was that, which was her being like, wait, what? And him being like, no, this, and her being like, wait, huh? So maybe it's time for Jane Fonda to either read up on a few more things or stop talking about politics altogether. But I love Jane Fonda. I just saw something on BuzzFeed where it listed a bunch of celebrities who say they have no interest in dating and haven't dated forever. And she was on that list. And she was quoted saying that she has no interest in being in a relationship because she's much better on her own, because it allows her to get more things done. Well, I love that. It allows me to get more things done. No, I cannot meet you for dinner. I am not interested in having a drink. I need to get things done. At the age of, what is Jane Fonda? 86? She 87? I don't even know. She's in her late 80s. What does Jane Fonda have to get done at this stage of her life? I mean, I love that. I think being productive at all stages of life is admirable and commendable. And I hope that I'm the same way. But the fact that she can't squeeze in dating because she gets more things done without dating is both hilarious and amazing.